She walked into the bedroom expecting 3 children sleeping. Instead, she found 3 small bodies lying perfectly still, skin pale as paper, lips cracked and dry. 14 days without food. The doctor said they had maybe 48 hours left. But what she did next, what she made those blind children do, would make every specialist who'd given up look like a fool. Dr. Evelyn Cross had everything except the one thing that mattered: her daughter's will to live. 42 years old, neurosurgeon, built a medical empire that treated presidents and princes. But she couldn't save 3 little girls who decided that life in darkness wasn't worth living. 3 years ago, a car accident took everything. Evelyn was driving, her husband Marcus beside her. Their triplets, Emma, Sophie, and Grace, 6 years old now, strapped in the back. A drunk driver ran a red light. Marcus died on impact. The girls survived, but the trauma to their optical nerves was catastrophic. Complete bilateral blindness. Irreversible, every specialist said. Nothing we can do. Evelyn didn't just lose her husband that day. She lost her daughters too, not to death, but to something worse. They retreated into silence, stopped laughing, stopped playing, stopped wanting anything. They became 3 ghosts living in a mansion, moving through rooms they couldn't see, touching walls they couldn't recognize, waiting for a darkness that had already swallowed them whole. 18 nannies in 8 months. 18 trained professionals with degrees in special needs, childhood trauma, visual impairment. Every single one quit. The girls wouldn't eat, wouldn't cooperate, wouldn't respond. They'd sit in their room for hours, 3 small figures holding hands in a circle, rocking slowly, humming the same song their father used to sing. They weren't difficult children. They were dying children. And dying children don't fight. They just fade. Then 2 weeks ago, it got worse. Emma stopped eating first. Then Sophie. Then Grace. 14 days of pushing plates away, turning their heads, clamping their mouths shut. Evelyn tried everything. Feeding tubes, the doctors suggested. For nutrition, psychiatric holds. But she couldn't do it, couldn't strap her babies down and force life into bodies that didn't want it anymore. The house became a tomb. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, shaking their heads. The girls were slipping away, hour by hour, and no one could stop it. Then yesterday, a woman showed up. Maria Santos, 43, a housekeeper with no training, no experience with blind children, no credentials at all. Just calloused hands from 20 years of cleaning other people's homes, and a quiet voice saying God told her to come. Evelyn didn't want to hire her. What could a maid do that 18 specialists couldn't? But something made her say yes. Something in the woman's eyes, steady, unafraid, like she'd already seen the worst and survived it. 3 days, Evelyn told her. If they don't eat in 3 days, I'm taking them to the hospital. Feeding tubes. I won't watch them starve. Maria nodded slowly. 3 days. That was yesterday. And today, Maria was about to do something that would either save 3 lives or end her own. But before I show you what happened in that bedroom, subscribe, like this video, and tell me where in the world you're watching from. This story will remind you that sometimes the greatest miracles don't come from medicine. They come from love that refuses to give up. Now, let me take you inside that room. The Cross estate sat on 12 acres of Philadelphia's main line. Georgian architecture, limestone facade, windows that reflected clouds and sky but let in no joy. From the street, it looked like power. Inside, it felt like a mausoleum. Evelyn Cross stood in her study at 5:30 in the morning, still in yesterday's clothes, staring at the file on her desk. Her daughter's medical records. 3 years of tests, scans, procedures. Every page ending with the same words. Prognosis: irreversible bilateral cortical blindness. Patient will not regain vision. She'd read them so many times, she had them memorized. Optical nerve damage. Cortical processing impairment. The crash hadn't just destroyed their eyes. It had destroyed the part of their brains that made sense of light. Evelyn closed the file, pressed her palms against her eyes. She was a neurosurgeon. She'd performed over 2,000 brain surgeries, saved lives that other doctors called hopeless. But she couldn't save her own children. The guilt was a living thing inside her chest. She'd been driving that night. Marcus wanted to drive, but she insisted. "You're tired," she'd said. "I'll take us home." If he'd been driving, maybe his reflexes would have been faster. Maybe he would have seen the drunk driver sooner. Maybe he'd be alive, and the girls would still see. But he was dead. And Evelyn was alive. And her daughters were upstairs, starving themselves to death, because life without their father and without sight wasn't a life they wanted anymore. The intercom on her desk buzzed. Dr. Cross. The head nurse, Helen, her voice tight. You need to come upstairs. Evelyn's heart dropped. I'm coming. She took the stairs 2 at a time, legs shaking. The girls' bedroom door was open. Helen stood in the doorway, face pale. Inside, the 3 girls lay in their beds. Not moving, not making a sound. Their small chests barely rising and falling. 14 days without food. Their bodies were shutting down. Evelyn walked to Emma's bed first. Her oldest by 4 minutes. She touched her daughter's forehead. Cold. Clammy. Emma, she whispered. Baby, please. No response. Emma's eyes, clouded and unfocused, stared at nothing. Her lips were cracked, bleeding at the corners. Evelyn moved to Sophie's bed. Same. Then Grace's. The same. They were dying. Right here in their bedroom, surrounded by toys they couldn't see and books they couldn't read. They were giving up. Helen spoke quietly. Dr. Cross, we need to make a decision. Feeding tubes. Hospital admission. We can't wait anymore. Evelyn's hands trembled. I know. Then you'll authorize it? Evelyn looked at her daughters. 3 identical faces. Dark hair, pale skin, Marcus's nose, her eyes that no longer worked. She thought about strapping them to hospital beds, forcing tubes down their throats, keeping them alive against their will. What kind of life is that? She whispered. Helen didn't answer. A soft knock at the door. Both women turned. Maria stood there, hands folded, expression calm. May I try something? Evelyn almost laughed. The grief and exhaustion made it sound bitter. Try what? They won't eat. They won't respond. What can you possibly do that 18 professionals couldn't? Maria didn't flinch. I'd like to sing to them. Sing? Helen's voice was sharp. They're dying, and you want to sing? Maria's eyes stayed on Evelyn. Not for them. For their father. The words hit Evelyn like a physical blow. Marcus used to sing to the girls every night. An old Portuguese lullaby his grandmother taught him. The girls would hum it constantly after he died, the only sound they made. How did you know he sang to them? Evelyn's voice cracked. Maria smiled gently. Because dying children don't hum unless they're remembering love. Evelyn stared at this woman. This housekeeper with no training, no degrees, no right to be standing in this room. But something in her voice made Evelyn step aside. 5 minutes, Evelyn said. That's all. Maria nodded. That's all I need. Evelyn had cameras everywhere. 32 of them. Every hallway, every room, every corner of the estate. Not because she didn't trust her staff. Because she couldn't bear to miss a moment with her daughters, even when she wasn't there. After the accident, after Marcus died, Evelyn became obsessed. She reviewed footage every night. Watched her girls move through the house, touching walls, counting steps, navigating a world they couldn't see. She watched them cry when they thought no one was looking. Watched them hold hands and rock and hum that song. She watched 18 nannies try and fail. Watched them arrive with confidence and leave with defeat. Some quit after days. Some lasted weeks. But they all left the same way, apologizing, saying the girls needed more help than they could give. What they meant was, your daughters are too broken to save. Evelyn kept every resignation letter. 18 of them. Filed in a drawer labeled failures. She'd read them sometimes, late at night, when the guilt was too heavy to carry alone. I tried everything, Dr. Cross. They won't engage. I'm not equipped to handle this level of trauma. I believe the girls need intensive psychiatric intervention beyond my scope. Translation, your children are hopeless. When the hunger strike started 14 days ago, Evelyn installed more cameras. In the girls' bedroom, pointed at their beds. She needed to see them breathing, needed proof they were still alive. She watched those feeds obsessively. Watched her daughters refuse food, refuse water, refuse life. Watched nurses beg them to eat. Watched specialists examine them and shake their heads. 24 hours ago, Evelyn had been reviewing footage when she saw something that made her stop. Rewind. Watch again. Maria, the new housekeeper, had entered the girls' room to clean. She didn't know about the cameras. Didn't know anyone was watching. She'd knelt beside Grace's bed, the youngest by 6 minutes, and touched her small hand. Just touched it, gentle, like she was checking if the child was real. Then Maria closed her eyes. Her lips moved. Silent prayer. After a long moment, she opened her eyes and whispered something to Grace. Too quiet for the microphone to catch. But whatever she said made Grace's fingers twitch. Just barely. The first movement the child had made in days. Evelyn watched that moment 5 times. Who was this woman? What did she see that no one else did? Now, watching through the bedroom camera, Evelyn saw Maria walk to the center of the room. She didn't look at the girls yet. She just stood there, hands clasped, head bowed. Helen stood beside Evelyn in the hallway, both of them watching the monitor on Evelyn's phone. What is she doing? Helen whispered. Praying, Evelyn said quietly. On the screen, Maria opened her eyes. Then she began to sing. The song was Portuguese. Soft, melodic, ancient. Maria's voice filled the room like honey, thick and warm. Dorm, dorm, meu menino, dorm sem parar. Sleep, sleep, my little one, sleep without stopping. Evelyn's breath caught. That was Marcus's song. The one his grandmother taught him. The one he sang to the girls every single night before the accident. How does she know that song? Helen breathed. I don't know. On the screen, something impossible happened. Emma's head turned, just slightly, toward the sound. Then Sophie's. Then Grace's. 3 blind girls, who hadn't responded to anything in weeks, were listening. Maria kept singing. She moved slowly to Emma's bed, sat on the edge, still singing. She didn't touch the child, just sang. Com os anjos a velar, nada te fará mal. With the angels watching over, nothing will harm you. Emma's lips moved. Barely, but they moved. She's mouthing the words, Evelyn whispered. Oh my God, she remembers. Maria moved to Sophie's bed. Same thing. Saturday. Sang. Didn't force anything. Sophie's hand lifted, reaching toward the sound. Maria took her hand gently, held it, kept singing. Then Grace's bed. The youngest. The one who'd stopped moving entirely 3 days ago. Maria sang softer now, leaning close. Dorm, dorm, meu amor, eight o sol rare. Sleep, sleep, my love, until the sun rises. Grace's eyes, clouded and useless, filled with tears. Then her mouth opened, and for the first time in 14 days, she spoke. Papa, Daddy. Evelyn's legs gave out. She grabbed the doorframe, hand over her mouth. Maria kept singing, tears streaming down her own face now. Papai canta? Grace whispered. Daddy is singing? Maria's voice broke, but she didn't stop. She pulled Grace's small body against her chest, held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, and finished the song. When the last note faded, silence. Then Emma spoke. Her voice was rough, barely there. We hear him. He's here, Sophie whispered. Papai is here. Evelyn pushed into the room, fell to her knees beside Maria. Yes, babies. Yes. He's here. He's always been here. All 3 girls reached out, hands searching, finding their mother, finding each other, finding Maria. And for the first time since Marcus died, they cried. Real tears. Not silent ones. Loud, painful, healing tears. Maria held them. All 3. Her arms around children she'd known for 24 hours, loving them like they were her own. Helen stood in the doorway, shaking. That's not possible. They haven't responded to anything in weeks. Evelyn looked at Maria. The woman's face was wet with tears, her expression soft, unafraid. Who are you? Evelyn whispered. Maria smiled gently. Just someone who remembers what it feels like to lose everything. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. That night, after the girls finally slept, Evelyn found Maria in the small staff room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, Bible open in her lap, praying. Evelyn knocked softly. Maria looked up. How did you know that song? Evelyn asked quietly. Maria closed the Bible. My husband used to sing it to our daughter. Before they both died. Evelyn's chest tightened. I'm so sorry. 10 years ago, Maria continued. Car accident. Same as yours. I was driving. She looked down at her hands. I lived. They didn't. The weight of those words settled between them. Your daughter, Evelyn whispered. How old was she? 6. The same age as your girls. Evelyn sat down slowly. You came here because God told me to. Maria's voice was steady. Because I know what it feels like to want to die after you lose everything. And I know what it feels like to wake up one day and realize you're still here for a reason. What reason? Maria looked at her with those calm eyes. To love children who need someone who understands grief. Not someone who's afraid of it. Evelyn felt tears coming. The girls, they haven't eaten in 2 weeks. You made them cry, made them speak. But will they eat? Not yet, Maria said honestly. But they will. Because now they remember why living matters. How can you be so sure? Because grief isn't what kills us, Dr. Cross. It's forgetting what we're grieving for. Your daughters forgot their father loved them. Tonight, they remembered. And when you remember you're loved, you remember you're worth keeping alive. Evelyn wiped her eyes. The specialists all said, the specialists see blindness, Maria interrupted gently. I see 3 little girls who miss their father. That's a different diagnosis. And it requires a different treatment. What treatment? Maria smiled. Patience, presence, and reminding them every single day that they're not alone in the dark. 3 days passed. 3 days of Maria singing that Portuguese lullaby every morning, every afternoon, every night before bed. 3 days of the girls listening, crying, remembering. On day 4, something shifted. Evelyn was reviewing security footage in her study when she saw it. Maria had brought breakfast to the girls' room. Not on trays like the nurses did. She'd carried it herself, 1 plate at a time. On the screen, Maria sat cross-legged on the floor between the 3 beds. She wasn't forcing anything, just sitting there, eating toast. This is good bread, Maria said aloud to no one in particular. Still warm, butter melting into it. Smells like my grandmother's kitchen. Emma's head turned slightly. What does your grandmother's kitchen smell like? Maria smiled. Evelyn washed her face on the monitor, the gentleness there. Like love, sweet girl. Like home. We don't remember home, Sophie whispered. Yes, you do, Maria said softly. Close your eyes. Well, close your hearts. And remember the kitchen when your papaya was there. What did it smell like? Silence. Then Grace spoke, her voice small. Coffee. Papaya drank coffee every morning. And eggs, Emma added. He made eggs. Bad eggs. Burned them. Sophie almost smiled. Mama would laugh. She'd say, Marcus, you're a disaster. Evelyn's hand went to her mouth. She was watching her daughters remember joy. Maria reached out, touched each girl's hand. Your papaya would want you to eat. Would want you to stay strong. Because love doesn't die when people do. It just changes shape. And right now, his love is in this bread, in this room, in you 3 still being here. Emma's small hand reached out. Can I touch the bread? Of course, baby. Maria placed a piece of warm toast in Emma's palm. The girl brought it to her nose. Inhaled deeply. It smells like before, Emma whispered. Then taste it, Maria said gently. Taste before. Taste your papaya's love. Emma lifted the bread to her mouth. Took the smallest bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Evelyn stood up from her desk, heart pounding. Sophie reached out next. Then Grace. Within 10 minutes, all 3 girls had eaten something. Not much. Just a few bites. But it was food. Real food. The first they'd eaten in 16 days. Evelyn rewound the footage. Watched it again. Then again. What was happening in that room wasn't medicine. It was something else entirely. Over the next week, the girls ate more. Small amounts, but consistent. Their colors started returning. Their voices got stronger. But that wasn't the only change. Evelyn watched the footage obsessively now. Not out of fear. Out of wonder. She watched Maria teach the girls to navigate their room differently. Not by memorizing steps. By feeling. Listen to the space, Maria would say. The room talks to you. Hear how your voice echoes off the walls. That tells you how close they are. The girls would stand in the center of their bedroom, hands out, listening. Now walk toward the window, Maria instructed. Feel how the air changes. Warmer near the glass. The sun touches it first. Emma walked slowly, hands extended. When she reached the window, she laughed. Actually laughed. I feel it. The warmth. Evelyn had tears streaming down her face, watching her daughter laugh for the first time in 3 years. She watched Maria teach them to navigate by sound. Clapping hands to hear echoes. Tapping walls to find hollow spaces. Using their voices to map rooms. Blind doesn't mean helpless, Maria said constantly. It just means you see differently. And different isn't less. It's just different. The girls started moving through the house more confidently. Still holding walls, still cautious. But moving. One afternoon, Evelyn came home early and heard something from the music room. Piano music. Clumsy, halting, but real. She walked to the doorway and stopped. Grace sat at the piano, hands on the keys, Maria beside her. Feel the pattern, Maria was saying. The keys talk to each other. High ones sound like birds. Low ones sound like thunder. You don't need to see them. Just feel. Grace's small fingers moved across the keys. The melody was simple, broken, but it was Marcus's lullaby. Evelyn covered her mouth. Marcus had tried to teach Grace piano before the accident. But after she went blind, every specialist said it was impossible. That without visual coordination, a blind child her age couldn't learn. But here was Grace, playing. How are you doing this? Evelyn whispered from the doorway. Maria looked up, smiled. I'm not doing anything, Dr. Cross. Grace's. I'm just showing her that her hands remember what her eyes forgot. That night, Evelyn sat in her study, staring at files. Medical files. Research papers. Articles about cortical blindness, neuroplasticity, sensory compensation. Everything she'd been taught said the girls couldn't do what they were doing. Couldn't navigate complex spaces. Couldn't learn piano. Couldn't heal this fast. But they were doing it. And the only variable was Maria. 3 weeks after Maria arrived, Evelyn came home from the hospital early. A surgery had been canceled. She was exhausted, drained, ready to collapse. She walked into the foyer, dropped her bag, and heard something that made her freeze. Laughter. Children's laughter. Coming from outside. Evelyn's heart started pounding. She walked toward the sound, through the house, toward the back doors that led to the garden. When she reached the window, she stopped breathing. In the garden, her 3 daughters were running. Actually running. Not carefully. Not holding hands. Running free through the grass. Arms out. Faces tilted toward the sun, laughing like children who could see. Maria stood in the center, clapping her hands, calling out directions. Emma, 3 steps left. Sophie, straight ahead. Grace, you're almost to the tree. The girls adjusted course at her voice, moving through space with confidence Evelyn had never seen. Emma reached the oak tree first, wrapped her arms around it, laughed. I found it. My turn. Sophie called, running toward Maria's voice. Grace was spinning in circles, arms wide, face to the sky. I can feel the sun, Mama. I can feel it on my face. Evelyn's phone dropped from her hand. The sound was loud in the quiet house. She stood there, shaking, watching something impossible. Blind children don't run. They don't navigate open spaces. They don't move with joy and freedom. But her daughters were doing exactly that. Evelyn's knees buckled. She grabbed the window frame, slid down to the floor, tears streaming. She'd spent 3 years trying to fix her daughters. Millions on specialists. Experimental treatments. Therapies designed by the best minds in neuroscience. And this woman, this housekeeper with no training, had given them back their lives in 3 weeks by teaching them they didn't need eyes to see. Maria looked toward the house then, like she felt someone watching. Her eyes met Evelyn's through the window. She didn't smile. She just nodded. Gentle. Understanding. This is what love does, that nod said. This is what happens when you see possibility instead of limitation. Evelyn put her head in her hands and sobbed. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Evelyn found Maria in the kitchen. She was cleaning dishes, humming that lullaby quietly. I watched them today, Evelyn said softly. Running in the garden. Maria turned, dried her hands. I know. How is that possible? Every specialist said. Every specialist looked at their eyes. Maria interrupted gently. I looked at their hearts. Evelyn shook her head. That's not medicine. That's not science. No, Maria agreed. It's not. It's faith. There's a difference. Faith in what? In the fact that blindness isn't the worst thing that can happen to a child. Giving up is. Your daughters didn't need better eyes, Dr. Cross. They needed a reason to use everything else they have. Evelyn sat down heavily. I failed them. For 3 years, I tried to fix what couldn't be fixed. I focused on their blindness instead of their life. Maria sat across from her. You love them the way grief taught you to, by trying to undo the past. But love isn't about undoing. It's about building forward with what remains. Marcus would have known that, Evelyn whispered. He always saw them, not their condition. Then see them the way he did, Maria said softly. See 3 brilliant girls who lost their sight, but not their souls. Who navigate the world differently, but navigate it beautifully. Who hear music in silence and find light in darkness. Evelyn wiped her eyes. I want to pay you more. Whatever you want. I want you to stay. Permanently. Not as staff. As family. Maria was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Cross, I didn't come here for money. Then why? Because 10 years ago my daughter died. And I died with her. I spent a decade just existing, cleaning houses, going through motions. Then God whispered your daughter's names to me. 3 girls the same age as mine. 3 girls who needed someone who understood that darkness isn't the end. It's just a different way of seeing. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I came here to save them. But the truth is, they saved me. They reminded me why I survived. Why God kept me here when I wanted to go. Evelyn reached across the table, took Maria's hand. Then stay. Not because I'm paying you. Because you're already family. You've been family since the moment you sang that song. Maria smiled through her tears. I'm not going anywhere. 6 months later. The Cross house was different now. You could feel it the moment you walked through the door. Music played in the music room. Grace at the piano, her hands confident now, playing complex pieces by memory and feel. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Sophie and Emma helping Maria bake, their hands covered in flour, measuring ingredients by touch and weight, moving around the kitchen like they'd always known where everything was. And in the garden, Evelyn sat on a bench, watching her daughters run through the grass, chasing each other, calling out, navigating by sound and feeling in trust. She wasn't the same woman she'd been 6 months ago. The guilt was still there, would probably always be there. But it didn't consume her anymore. She'd restructured her life, cut her surgery schedule to 3 days a week, spent the other days at home, actually present, actually watching her daughters grow into extraordinary young women. Maria had taught her something the specialists never could, that healing isn't about restoration. It's about transformation. Her daughters would never see again, but they didn't need to. They'd found a different way to live. A better way, maybe. One that saw past surfaces to the beauty underneath. Mama, Grace called from across the garden. Listen. Evelyn stood up. I'm listening, baby. Grace tilted her head, perfectly still. The fountain. You can hear exactly where it is. The water sounds different in every direction. Emma walked toward the sound, arms out, navigating perfectly. She's right. It's like a map made of sound. Sophie joined them. And the birds are louder near the trees. They tell you where the branches are. Evelyn watched her daughters, these 3 miraculous girls, mapping their world with courage and grace and absolute joy. Maria walked up beside her, stood quietly. Thank you, Evelyn whispered. For everything. Don't thank me, Maria said softly. Thank your daughters. They did the impossible. They chose to live when dying was easier. They chose joy when grief was simpler. They chose to see beauty in darkness. A butterfly landed on the fountain's edge. Bright blue, delicate wings catching the sun. Grace gasped. Something's there. I can feel it. The air moved differently. A butterfly, Evelyn said quietly. Blue, your father's favorite color. All 3 girls turned their faces toward where their mother's voice indicated. They couldn't see it, but they knew it was there. Hi, Papai, Emma whispered. We're okay, Sophie added. We're really okay now. Grace smiled. Tell him thank you. For sending Maria. For sending us light in the dark. The butterfly stayed for a long moment, then lifted, wings catching sun, and flew away. Evelyn felt Marcus there, felt his approval, felt his pride. He knows, she whispered. He's been watching the whole time. That evening, all 5 of them sat at the dinner table. A real family. Not perfect. Still grieving. Still healing. But together. Grace said the blessing, her voice clear and strong. Thank you for this food. Thank you for this home. Thank you for Mama, who learned to see us again. And thank you for Maria, who taught us that being blind doesn't mean living in darkness. It just means finding light in different places. Amen, Maria whispered. Amen, Evelyn echoed. The girls ate, talked, laughed. Their hands found their cups without fumbling. Found each other across the table. Found their way through the meal with confidence and joy. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Maria sat at the piano with Grace, teaching her a new piece. Emma and Sophie curled up on the couch with audiobooks, headphones on, smiling at whatever story was unfolding. Evelyn watched from the doorway. Her heart was full. Not healed, not whole, but full. Because she'd learned what Maria already knew. That broken things can still hold love. That grief and joy can exist in the same space. That darkness isn't the absence of light. It's just light we haven't learned to see yet. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Emergency consult needed. High-profile patient. Name your price. Evelyn looked at the screen. 6 months ago, she would have gone immediately. Would have left her daughters, chased the case, buried herself in work to avoid the pain. Now, she typed back. I'm with my family. Find someone else. She turned off her phone, walked into the living room, sat beside her daughters. Tell me about your day, she said softly. Tell me everything. And they did. Three voices talking over each other, excited, full of life, telling her about the piano pieces Grace learned, the cookies Sophie and Emma made, the bird Emma identified by its call alone. Maria caught Evelyn's eye across the room, smiled. This was it. This was everything. Not sight, not medicine, not specialists or degrees or millions of dollars. Just love. Patient, persistent, refusing to give up love. The kind that says, I see you. Not your limitations. Not your losses. Just you. The kind that sits in darkness and says, we'll find light together. The kind that transforms houses into homes and strangers into family and broken hearts into whole ones. Outside, night was falling. But inside the Cross house, everything was bright. Three blind girls who'd learned to see. One grieving mother who'd learned to hope. And one humble woman who'd learned that sometimes God saves us by giving us someone else to save. The piano music filled the rooms. Grace's hands moving across keys she couldn't see, making beauty from memory and faith and trust. Just like her life. Just like all of them. Finding their way forward. Not by sight. By love. 1 year later, 1 year to the day since Maria first sang that Portuguese lullaby, the Cross family gathered in the garden. A photographer stood ready, camera in hand. Okay, everyone together. Emma, Sophie, and Grace stood side by side, matching sundresses, hair braided with flowers Maria had woven in that morning. They were 7 now. Taller, stronger, radiant. Evelyn stood behind them, hands on Emma's and Grace's shoulders. Maria beside her, arm around Sophie. Beautiful family, the photographer said. On 3, everyone say joy. Joy, they called together. The camera clicked. That photo would hang in the entryway, right where the old family portrait used to be. Not replacing Marcus. Honoring him. Showing what his love had built, even after he was gone. Later, after the photographer left, the girls ran to their swing set. Not carefully. Not afraid. Just running, laughing, their hands finding ropes and chains by memory and trust. Maria and Evelyn sat on the porch, watching. I got a call yesterday, Evelyn said quietly. From a mother in Boston. Her son lost his sight in an accident. She'd heard about us somehow. Asked if we could help. Maria looked at her. What did you say? I said yes. Evelyn smiled. I'm starting a foundation. Teaching parents and caregivers how to help blind children thrive, not just survive. Medical treatment combined with what you taught us. Faith and science together. What will you call it? Evelyn's voice broke slightly. The Marcus Cross Foundation for Children Who See Differently. Maria squeezed her hand. He'd be so proud. Maria? Grace called from the swing. Come push us. Coming, sweet girl. Maria stood, walked toward the girls. Evelyn watched her go. This woman who'd arrived broken and had somehow put them all back together. The sun was setting now, casting golden light across the garden. The girls' laughter filled the air. Emma called out, Mama, did you know the sunset sounds like peace? How does peace sound, baby? Evelyn asked. Like this, Sophie answered. Like all of us together. Like home, Grace added softly. Evelyn closed her eyes, felt Marcus there. Felt his approval in the warm breeze, in her daughter's joy, in the peace that finally lived in this house. She'd spent 3 years trying to give her daughters back their sight. Maria had given them something better. She'd taught them that vision isn't about eyes. It's about heart. That darkness isn't the absence of light. It's just light waiting to be felt differently. That broken things aren't destroyed. They're just becoming something new. And sometimes, the greatest miracles don't restore what was lost. They reveal what was there all along. 3 daughters who never needed to see to be extraordinary. One mother who learned that love isn't about fixing. It's about accepting, celebrating, and believing. And one humble woman who proved that the most powerful medicine isn't in hospitals. It's in hands that refuse to let go, voices that keep singing, and hearts that see past every limitation to the limitless soul underneath. The porch light stayed on as darkness fell. Inside, music played. Grace at the piano, her sisters singing along, Maria harmonizing. And somewhere between heaven and earth, Marcus smiled. His girls were home. Not the home they left. The home they built. Together. In darkness. They found light. And it was beautiful. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.